the end, the blogosphere and others, and we throw everybody in there. Are there some, perhaps, are unfair, looking to lean in for more clicks, more eyeballs to negative because it sells more? Sure, there probably are some. In general, I would say that most members of the media, my sense is that most people are reporting facts. It's not like this stuff isn't happening. It's not like these leaks aren't out there that people are turning down opportunities to interview for the Mets job. So that's the reality. So in general, no, I don't think the media coverage is necessarily unfair. I also think Greg hit on, my second point, Greg hit on something that I know I feel. And just so you guys know where I'm coming from, sure, I am a sports radio talk show host from WFAN, but I'm also a born and raised by my dad Mets fan, lifelong, excuse me, Mets fan. So really important memories for me, and for those of us on the radio, my father died when I was 14 years old, best person I ever knew. So really important memories for me, sitting there at Shea Stadium with my dad. And like a lot of you probably, I fell hard for Steve Cohen's introductory press conference. I thought Camelot, Shangri-La, we are the most lucky chosen people. We have the richest owner in the sport, and not only will he spend money, but he's going to clean up the BS, and we'll have a franchise we can be proud of, professionally run and operated in that way. And the problem is, when you set that belief and standard, I fell hard, and then you don't live to that standard that you set, and a year later, here we are with no front office, and all the leaks and all the everybody turning it down. It looks like the least desirable job in baseball right now is the perception of how it's being made to look. It looks like a clown show. And that's, we can blame the media and be disappointed in the media for reporting facts, but that is the perception is reality. So I think two things happening. We just have to, this ridiculously high bar of expectation was set, and now the reality right now is that there's not going to be a quick fix to change the off-field professionalism issues with this franchise.
I'd say the media coverage is very fair, and I am biased in that, of course. But what I usually tell people when they say, oh, you're too negative, or this person's positive, whatever, as a reporter, what I write is dictated, the subject content is largely decided by whatever the team is doing. So when the team is playing well, my stories, other people's stories naturally are going to be positive. When the team stinks, the stories are going to be about how they stink. And right now, in the context of trying to find a general manager, the Mets stink. It's been a mess. And there's, you can't really, beat around the bush with that. Their GM search is about to enter week 7 or month 13, depending on how you look at it. And they haven't really been able to find anybody to take the job. They've been turned down by a lot of people. So the coverage reflects that. I don't think it's a terribly interesting topic for most people, but it really only becomes a topic when things are going poorly for the Mets, which has been the case almost constantly for, who knows how long now, but especially over the last 13 months, like Lori said, there was such optimism when Steve Cohen came in, and then it's been really a mess of a year in every way. There's still a lot of reason to be optimistic about Steve Cohen as owner. It just hasn't had a good start. But he'll turn it around eventually. I still think that.
Just to kind of touch on what Tim said, from a Mets perspective, anything that could go wrong with the Mets in the past has to go wrong. It's Candy Murphy's law. And for fans who saw a corner being turned when Steve Cohen bought the team, that was, I think as everyone agreed, that was a really encouraging point in just being a Mets fan. And it's all the BS is about to end. And since then, things have not really gone well, and that's in almost every aspect possible. The process of the general manager search itself has just been less than ideal, I think would be an understatement. That being said, where team is ended up now. I think they're looking at Adam McCromie or Sam Mondry Cohen from the Nationals. You know, if these guys are viable options and they think that they can take this team to the next level, again, this is a team effort. There's an analytics group in place now, which wasn't the case for so long. I think there's a lot to be said for the process as a whole, and this, you know, what's being harped on now, it's justified, and it's the process is not done great, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and the narrative can change over time.
Thanks, Tim. I disagree with every one of you. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, I think it is a nuanced point. I think Lori touched on it, that, I mean, the question was purposely, you know, I was trying to say all, you know, media, because there has been certain examples of people doing a fantastic job of breaking down all the different elements of the story. The problem is that, you know, Sandy Alderson went from being this, you know, hero who was kicked out the door while he was sick with cancer in 2018 by Jeff Wilcon, and now all of a sudden he's this crazy power, you know, control freak that wants his son to be the GM. And somewhere in the middle, you know, there's truth to that, but somewhere in the middle, you know, people aren't breaking that down, I don't think.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I haven't read anything from a reputable reporter saying that Sandy is a power-hungry, wants to do it thing. I think a lot of reporting has been that people outside the Mets are skeptical about coming to the Mets because of Sandy's presence, but all the reporting has been, and Sandy has said straight up, repeatedly, he would rather not run baseball operations.
Right, and I agree with that. In your paper, perhaps, that's been the case, but I can't say that for every paper, because I've been doing a deep dive on this. But if you read GothamBaseball.com, you'll see some specific examples of it. But I respect where Tim's coming from. I respect where everybody's coming from. That's my perception, and it's coming from someone that has never been the biggest fan of Sandy Alderson. Just not. Mainly because with Sandy, he's the guy that really started the whole taking the power away from the manager. He was like the first guy, you know, he had to clean up all of Billy Martin's messes in Oakland. So he was the first guy to kind of be like, well, why does the field manager have to...
So you're angry at Sandy now in his role as Mets leadership for what happened in Moneyball?
No, it's just a lingering thing. It's just that I don't have a lot of confidence that he will hire a manager that is a little bit more, you know, like a Buck Showalter type. You know, he's like, he would be afraid to hire a manager like that who wants a seat at the table. And as a fan, I don't know about you folks, and this is what I'm going to do my, actually, it's a great segue, Lori, because that's actually what I want to do, is I know that Sandy the other day said at the GM meetings that he wants to hire a manager, he wants to hire a general manager before they hire the manager, which, and again, they don't have a lot of competition. We'll start with Tim this time, and we'll come back the other way. I'm going to make my point, and then you guys either counter it or agree with it. Personally, as a Mets fan, and as somebody who's seen non-Mets types of managers come here and not get, and the list is long, you know, whether it's Jeff Torborg or, you know, whoever, you know, guys who have come here to manage this team that have no connection at all to the Mets, never played in New York, and then are surprised by the amount of media and the amount of questions that they get. Do you think having that Met or New York connection is important when they hire the manager team?
I don't think it's important. I think it should be taken into consideration as far as demeanor. You know, the deer in the headlights, but we've seen that a lot as fans from a number of, whether it's managers, whether it's fans, it happens. It takes an adjustment period, whatever the case may be. I think in the Mets manager search, it should be more focused on someone who can kind of, especially this year, I think we saw managers blend analytics and baseball, the strategy side of the sport together and found success. I think that should be their most, I guess, their biggest priority.
I don't think Mets experience is as important as managerial experience when it comes to a manager. The Mets have had 3 first-timers in a row now in Callaway, Beltran, and Rojas, and for various reasons, none of those worked out. And in the case of Rojas, this past year, I didn't think necessarily that he deserved to lose his job but from the Mets' perspective of wanting to tell their eventual general manager, hey, you can pick your own manager, that makes sense. I get that as a selling point. But one of Rojas' faults was he too often did not know or claimed to not know what was going on with his own players in his dugout in the clubhouse. And I think there needs to be an adult in the room, a respected voice from the manager, and not somebody who is trying to be liked or be everybody's friend. Because all the talk when Rojas came in was, the guy's known from minor leagues, he was on the staff last year, everybody loves him. I don't think the manager necessarily needs to be loved, he just needs to be respected.
So, question was, does the next Mets manager need to have either a Mets tie or a tie to New York in some way to succeed? And I would agree with what Tim Healey just said. I think you need somebody who has 2 characteristics. One, experience managing in the major league level. Managing the Mets, managing in New York and managing the Mets in particular should not be, Steve Cohen said it, not somebody learning on the job. It's just too demanding, it's too tricky, and the Mets, one thing we know about our Mets is that they're never dull. So there's going to be something interesting happening. You need experience. That's number 1. Number 2 is somebody who has the disposition to handle the media and media responsibilities that come with being in New York. I don't think that means you have to have a New York connection, and I'll give you 2 examples there. So, for instance, Luis Rojas had tons of Mets connection, but as a novice, first-time Major League Baseball manager, it took him a while to grow into the job and get comfortable and deal with the media and all those things. Example of someone with no ties whatsoever who will not be the Mets manager but probably could have done a nice job, Dusty Baker. So Dusty's coming back with Houston, stepped into probably the worst managerial, most difficult, coming off the cheating team and having to wear that, deal with all of that, handled it beautifully. So there's somebody who's a veteran manager who absolutely can handle the media responsibilities that come with New York. You're looking for somebody, Bob Millman could have been that, whoever it is, but somebody who has that experience, I think, is what they should be looking for.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Lori just touched on, I think, a guy like Bob Millman, maybe didn't have that Mets experience, but would have been a perfect fit for the job. Obviously, you want to say on the West Coast, it sounds like what's been reported, and looking at the Padres, but I think a guy like that who has an experience and who's been around the game and is learning on Steve Cohen's dad, like Lori said, I think that experience, you take the job as a coach manager, you're not just managing the field and things like analytics, obviously on the field and all that. There's always going to be, it's not always, but there always seems to be some off-field stuff, and you're also going to have to be meeting with the media twice a day, that's just part of it. And I think a guy like Luis Rojas, maybe 5-10 years down, he ends up somewhere else as a manager and does a nice job. But it just wasn't the right fit for that, for Rojas, right? To manage this team when it's like Eric said, he's had a lot of experience in the organization, but doing it on the big stage for the first time, it's a tough job for him to do. So I think if you get somebody who's been there, been around the game a lot, has that experience, and goes on the field, on the shoes, I don't think it has to necessarily be in New York with the Mets, but I think if you have a guy that's been around and been through that stuff, I think it's really important because he's been there, done that, and can kind of hark back on those past experiences.
I think you all make great points. I just think at the end of the day, it's so, given the media, responsibilities of the manager today, it's so important for someone to just you've been used to it. Having, everybody else, for Oakland, they have like 2 beat writers, like maybe 2 TV people. You come to New York and it's like, there's 35, 45 people in front of your And I think that that's, for some people, that's a tough word.
Let me ask you a question then. I'll give you two people. So, and Tim Healey, you would have had exposure here to some of these folks. So, example would be Carlos Beltran, long significant history with the Mets in New York, and Bob Melvin. Would have been coming in as a veteran manager without that New York firsthand experience. In your opinion, which one of them would be more comfortable day one or month 3 dealing with the New York media responsibilities?
That's a good question. Dealing with the media specifically, Melvin versus Beltran, it might be Beltran because he's not afraid to say whatever he wants. But dealing with the media is just one part of the job, and I would contend a less important part of the job than actually managing the game and the players in the clubhouse. So for the whole package, I would pick Melvin.
Yeah.
And Beltran,
Here's my thing on Beltran, who obviously is a player and a terrific player, terrific man. But and we'll put one strikeout where he left the bat on his shoulder aside. But my sense of Beltran, different maybe than yours, and yours would be better than mine, was he wasn't always naturally comfortable talking to the media. That's not his happy place. So do I think he could do a very competent press conference? Yes. Really smart guy, Carlos Beltran. And he would have grown into that in my belief. But day one, moment one, comfort talking to the media on a daily basis, not his happy place.
I think Beltran, he was very uncomfortable when he was the main guy when he came to the Mets the first time. I think when maybe Tim, are you talking about when he was with the Yankees, it was much easier to deal with?
I was just speaking generally that I know like when he first came to the Mets, he had some growing pains for sure.
Yeah.
But I'd say, by the end, the Beltran that we see now.
And he was with St. Louis, when he was with the Yankees. But also, Bob Melvin actually has a Met and a Yankee connection. He worked for the Mets as a scout, and he played for the Yankees. I know we have a little bit of time left. No one is telling me how much time we have left, but I know we don't have a lot. But I do want to throw it out to the folks out there. Does anybody have a question? Because I think there's a microphone going around. Is there someone or you can shout? I don't know if
The microphone?
There you go.
Yeah, what do you, other than, let's exclude Sandy and Son, what are the pitfalls that you think that it might be deterring some of these GMs, potential GMs and presidents from coming to organizations? And do you think some of the organizational problems they might be afraid of are more because of the Will Congress team and what Cone did in the last year?
I think it's a variety of things, and I think it can be a little different in each scenario where they've gotten a no. I think one of the biggest reasons is something Sandy came out and said this week, where the person they hire today, tomorrow, next week, whatever, as general manager, is going to get a 1-year runway. To hire somebody for this job and guarantee them only 1 year is practically unheard of and honestly kind of insane. The idea that you might hire somebody and then looming over everything that person does on their first year on the job, their first year doing a very difficult job, that a year from now they might hire somebody over you, that's not a very comfortable working situation.
See, I didn't take it that way. And that's one of the reasons where you're wrong and I'm right.
Do you want to just explain, just every one of you may know what Tim's talking about, but just for a moment, and then you respond. So what we're saying is looming, if you haven't read every word, was the rumors that David Stearns, who is the president of baseball operations of the Milwaukee Brewers, that's the apple of the Mets' eye. That's who they plan to try and hire. They're hoping he'll be available in a year. So if they hire him, their hope is hire him in a year. Whoever's being hired as GM right now gets 1 year and then could be evaluated or dismissed by the new boss. That's what Tim Healey is saying. So now, just so everybody understands, that's what we're implying and saying. So Mark, you're saying you did not read it that way.
Yeah, I read it as the person who gets the GM job has the opportunity, to prove themselves, to get that president of baseball operations job. That's how I do it.
The person who is hired as GM has the
They'll have a
opportunity,
year to have the opportunity to prove themselves that they could be elevated.
has the opportunity to prove themselves as able to do the job, and they don't need another person on top of them.
No,
But
right.
the GM they hire right now will not be promoted to president of baseball operations 1 year from now, I guarantee you.
Okay.
That's not going to happen. Especially with the Rams lawyer from Pittsburgh, yeah.
You got another question?
Hi, Brady Pass. About a year ago, the Mets hired what they thought was the great general manager, Derek Porter. Obviously, things happened. Can you talk about the betting process going on now for the next GM?
Sure. Yeah. Sandy Alderson did not really get too in depth on that, other than to say it's deeper now. It is more in depth, and I think and some of these things he said more in March, April time, and it was in the news more was, in the case of Jared Porter, obviously the Mets didn't talk to women who might have been able to inform them about Jared Porter's reputation. So it's not only talking to Jared Porter's friends or the GM candidate's friends, but people who worked for him, people who were around him in various capacities. So, whereas sometimes the quote-unquote vetting process is calling his boss, calling his buddies, asking around what people in your own front office know. Now it's hopefully they're actually doing this more in depth, a wider scope of getting a sense of who that person is.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. We have a lot of stuff we have to get to. And while Hayes has a big concert today, we have to wrap things up. I want to thank Greg, Lori, Tim, and Tim.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you.
And it's so awesome to be here, and LFMG. Thanks everybody. Never mind.
Turns out we have 10 more minutes.
That's the first time I've ever been given extra time. Usually Keith wants to throw things at me from the audience.
Yes, I do.
Okay, you're next up.
It was mentioned before that clearly the bar wasn't high when the work was left and Coleman came in. And now a year and a half later, we're seeing, we're fearless and red paper. I don't know what's going on. What are the odds, in your opinion, what are the odds 5 years from now at this thing we're going, oh my God, this was awful. Not as bad as the Wilpons, but the Steve Cohen thing didn't work.
I'm going to answer that, and everybody else can chime in. There is no way. Okay? There is no. I'm putting my money on anybody. I'm putting my money on the multi-billionaire over the lunatics that used to own our team. Okay? Thank you. I mean, come on, folks. My next book is going to be about the Wilpons. Okay? So trust me.
It wasn't scary to the Wilpons. I'm just saying it's relative to the rest of the league.
Fine.
Okay.
I'm betting on the billionaire that things are going to be fine. And if not, I guess I'm fired from the state of the Mets. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I mean, he said when he was hired, he said 3 to 5 years he expected to win a championship, right? I think a big part of it is having the right people in place, but at the end of the day, the money does talk. With a lot of players are trying to grade, so I think you have to have the infrastructure in place and hire the right people, but at the end of the day, a guy with deep pockets like that, I think it's gonna, it takes a few years.
What could go wrong?
Hey, I got a question. Who do you think? Do you guys think Bobby Backlund should be the next manager for the Mets? Thank you. What do you guys think?
Thank you for being that one person in my Twitter mentions. I did not grow up a Mets fan, and I'm a relative young person, so that's where I come from when I say I don't understand the fascination with Wally Backer.
You want me to handle this one then? I said, do you want me to handle this one then?
Yeah.
I feel like actually of all of us, I grew up a Mets fan. I am old enough to older than you, but I will not, do age or weight when you're talking to women.
Right.
But I grew up, so my first championship as a fan, 86 Mets. So I actually get the fascination with Wally Backman. And I even was, prior to him first being hired for about 50 seconds and then fired in a managerial job, I actually, when he was a minor league manager with the Mets, if you listen to the way his players talked about him as a manager, players would run through walls for Wally Backman. So he was a really good minor league manager. So I actually 100% get where you're coming from. However, I think there's zero chance it will happen. Okay? And I think in today's world, it cannot happen, and it certainly cannot happen with a franchise like the New York Mets that has systemic, historic issues with, issues against women in the culture of hiring people who have track records, whether that was in their past or things that went on with the organization. I'm going to throw the word allegedly in there in a big way, because I never like to be sued. So allegedly, all kinds of things happening on, setting really inappropriate, sexual harassment, inappropriate things, whatever. Wally Backman has a history in his background of, allegedly violence against, domestic violence against women. When you have that with where the Mets are right now, you just cannot go there. So I get that you that, but I feel like that time the next ship has sailed. It's not going to happen. It cannot.
Well, how many people here are from Mets Twitter? Can I see a show of hands? Any Mets Twitter people?
Congratulations to the rest of you for not being on Twitter.
The point I'm trying to make is that people know, anyone who's been on Twitter, Mets Twitter, following me on Twitter, knows how I feel about Wally Backman. But I don't think you've seen me lobby for Wally Backman in the last couple of years. The reason being, I love Wally. I think he would be a fantastic manager. I think he could manage this team in his sleep. The problem is, he's got too much baggage. In today's day and age, they're not going to hire somebody who already brings baggage to the table. And Sammy Alderson and him hate each other. So no, it's not going to happen.
Not even they cannot. With his baggage, they simply cannot.
Right. Didn't know what. Next question. One more.
Yeah. Looking at the Mets search right now for the president of baseball operations and even the GM, I see a lot of the background, or some of the backgrounds of some of the candidates has been in the international scouting or the scouting area. The Mets internally have a great vice president of scouting, Tommy Tenhouse. Guy's been brilliant in terms of talent that he found and secured, not only through the draft, but also in looking at these younger kids in different areas. Why isn't he getting any consideration?
I actually think that if they do turn to an internal candidate for president of baseball operations, if all reports according to David Stearns, who's been talking next season, if they go internally, I think Tommy would be a terrific choice. I think he has the experience in the organization. He's seen everyone around him doing it. He's got the support system in place now. If they do land a good GM in this search now, I think that would be a very hard option.
I think that's a great question because, those were some of the names, him and Healey, that were being, kind of put out there as internal candidates. Unfortunately, I do think they do want to hire from outside. But, if I believe, and I've said this before, if you don't want to come here and work in New York, your reasons might be valid to you, but I am not going to be one of those fans that sits there and hates on my own team because we're being turned down. Look, you know what? Don't come. We'll do it without you. We'll figure it out. We don't, Milwaukee, you don't want to come here, fine. And I want you to say David Stearns, obviously he was, he clearly has interest in the job, but he's under contract. But, for all his under people that want to come here, and I've spoken to a lot of the candidates who have said they're a little nervous about me. You know, I know others have said it is about Sandy, it is about Rubinson having another vote in the, you know, in the front office that would be against him. But look, I mean, if it's an internal hire, it's an internal hire. I mean, at the end of the day, I know everybody here, you know, and there's this saying that the historian from MLB, John Thorne, recently, you know, he doesn't do a lot of Twitter, but he recently said to me, you know, when you're in a restaurant, do you really care who the chef is, or do you care that the meal that you're getting is fantastic? Most people only care about the meal. You know, I know some of us really hardcore Met fans and people that cover the team, you know, they want to know who that person is. They want to see if they have a level of qualifications. But I'm getting to the point, folks. Give me the meal. I'll be happy with the meal. Does anybody else want to chime in?
I think that's a great point. I think it's a shame that so much of this is taken up by front office talk and media talk, when really it's the players that matter most, and the team on the field that matters most. You know, in a slightly different version of this offseason, it could have been a lot of really good questions about free agents and what the 2022 Mets look like. Which is all to say, I'm 100% with you about the deal.
I think it's a great point, Mark, is two things can be true at the same time. The whole front office search thing can be really annoying and look bad, you know, externally, but still, we could be sitting here a year from now and the Mets could have had a really successful season. And it is about the players, and the Mets do still have the richest owner in the sport, and they may go out in free agency. You know, we have to see when does the game even start with the looming collective bargaining agreement and all of that. But, you know, the Mets still do have more money to spend theoretically than anybody else, and they could put a great product on the field, and we could all be really happy.
If only they could get someone to make those decisions.
Yeah. Well, we get to say goodbye again. You know, I got an extra 10 minutes, and really, I'm kind of like, I've got goosebumps because that's never happened. I'm always like, oh. Anyway, folks, have a great time. I'm sure some of us will be mingling. I'll be over at the tables. I haven't got the baseball table set up, so if anybody wants to come by and ask any questions, see you around and make sure to say hi to my dad. Is he here, my dad? Terry Collins, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for the entire State of the Mets panel. Let's give it going for a lot of great information, a lot of great insight from people connected all over Mets fandom, right? It's the kind of thing that we're looking for. And I do want to just let everybody know, obviously, we've got a microphone set up down at the end of this bar, and we're going to have a Q&A opportunity at the end of each panel. So, guys, get those questions ready, get all the information ready that you think you might want, all the questions you want to ask. If you've ever had a burning question to ask Ron Darling, Todd Frazier, whatever it might be, have those questions teed up. We're going to save about 15 minutes at the end of each one of these panels. You guys can come up and ask your questions, and we'll do our best